Are you listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other platform where you can leave a rate or review? Do you like what we're doing? If the answer to all of that is yes, please consider quickly giving us a 5-star rate. And if you wouldn't mind leaving us a nice review, we greatly appreciate that as well. Okay, let's do this.
Hello, welcome to the Ghost of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 284 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we'll be discussing chapter 12 of A Dance with Dragons. That's Reek 1, maybe? Who knows? If there's more Reek. I
guess so. Right. And as always, we'll chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you, unless, of course, you have a Buy Me a Coffee Sustainer tier that includes spoilers. Then we are going to spoil things for you. But regardless, hopefully we'll provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes. They'll provide some additional information about the characters and geography of this chapter. How are you?
I am doing all right. I'm fine. I'm doing fine. I'm just having one of those days where all the little things go wrong, you know?
Yeah.
Like, just nothing major's gone wrong. It's just like when life can slap me, it has been today. Just the little things, and you know, it's fine.
You can share. It's just me and the world. Well, I'm glad this didn't happen to you. This morning, I could not open the door to my house. Still can't. Still cannot open the door. It will not open. I'm like, what?
You have three, right? There's 3 doors.
Luckily, we're only down one. The other 2 are still operational, so not climbing out the window yet.
So when you say it won't open, do you mean physically the door won't open or won't unlock? What's happening?
I can unlock it, but once it's unlocked, you just have to turn the handle to have the latch. That latch will not withdraw, and so I can't open the door from either side.
Oh wow. So the lock is like frozen. But
the lock isn't frozen because I can lock it. I can lock the top lock or the bottom lock. The bottom lock is like a little knobble on the end of the handle. Yeah. I can turn that to locked or unlocked, fine. But it's when I turn the handle, nothing's happening. The one last thing you have to do to open the door won't move.
The latch has to withdraw
exactly,
the door.
So you can pull the door. Yeah.
Yes.
So I have literally no idea what to do. I mean, obviously calling someone other than me is the best bet.
Hey, do you have that tool from Home Depot that will tell you what it is, what product you need, and it will say door handle?
Door handle. That's a good callback. Well done. So I have a funny story for you. I've had a few days at the beach since last I saw you because Carson had more of her training at the beach. So we went along and had a nice time at the beach. It was great.
Perfect.
There was some soccer/football on television, and I moseyed on down to the local watering hole. And the local watering hole at the beaches of North Carolina can be a little edgy is not the right word because it's not very edgy. It's just, I'm going to stand out. I'm just going to say I'm going to stand out when I go in that place. Yeah.
Right. I know exactly what you mean.
Right. I get there and it's like 4:00. So I'm thinking, well, the place has been going for a few hours at this point. But they'd been closed all day they'd had a mechanical issue and they'd only just opened.
So they couldn't get the door open.
Maybe it was that, yes. There was just one other derelict drunk guy. The barmaid, who was very pretty, actually, and myself. We were the only 3 people in there. And when I arrived, the guy was very talkative and wanted to chat. And you know me, I'm an extrovert, so I was all in for that. And the barmaid bid a hasty retreat to get out of the way, and she left us to talk.
Sure.
This guy, I don't think everything he told me was 100% honest.
He was telling you stories, huh?
I'll give you the example, the quintessential example of his story, where of course, I'm in a bar with a drunk North Carolinian, I'm not going to call him up on this, just to be clear.
Right.
I'm playing along, yeah?
Just let him go with it, yeah.
He was on a flight to Germany, and he fell asleep. And he woke up in Pakistan.
What? How could that be? So I guess he changed flights in Germany. Other people must have been on the flight that didn't get off the plane. I don't know.
I mean, I was like, wow, that's amazing. Wow. He's like, yeah, stuck in Pakistan for 3 days. I was like, oh, that's incredible. I'm like, that really doesn't make... So anyway, he eventually leaves, and then literally it's just me and the barmaid at the bar, nobody else. And I said to her, you know what? His stories didn't quite add up, did they? And she was like, oh God, no. She said, you would not believe the sigh of relief I breathed when you walked in the door of this place, so I didn't have to talk to him anymore. Which cracked me up, and we carried on chatting for a while. And then I was like, hey, wait a minute, does that mean you're really hoping someone else comes in? She said, I really shouldn't have told you my secrets. So I liked her.
Yeah, she's witty.
The other thing she did, 2 other guys came in, and one of them said, 2 Michelob Ultras. And so she popped a Michelob Ultra, and she popped another Michelob Ultra. And the other guy said, oh, I don't want Michelob Ultra. And she was like, and so I kind of sympathized because she just opened 2 cans.
Yeah, too late now.
Carson was due to arrive, and I said, my wife might have that when she gets here, so I said, don't throw it away. And she said, don't worry, just watch. And so she served the 1 Michelob Ultra to this guy, and 15 minutes later he said, I'll get another one. she reached in under the thing, and I played along. I went, she handed him this. I think you should also tell the story of why you sent me a very nice text last night.
So Molly's home for a long weekend from school, and Stacy and I we were in bed, we were getting ready to fall asleep. Her boyfriend was over. The 2 of them were in the
Molly's, not Stacy's. Yeah.
Yes, Molly's. And Stacy gets really annoyed if Molly comes in to say goodnight after Stacy has fallen asleep because the dog wakes up and, goes a little bit haywire. So I texted her and said, come in and say goodnight to us. But only I didn't text her. I texted our group thread with our work friends.
we were all round there in like a shot. Imagine how annoyed Stacey would have been if we'd waited till she was asleep.
Right. I do. Like, as soon as I hit send, I was like, why is this green? Molly and I are both on iPhones. This should be blue. And then I looked up and saw how many people were on that text thread. So yes, I said goodnight to a whole group of my friends.
Mm-hmm. That was very sweet.
That I had lunch with yesterday, and you did not.
I was still at the beach. I didn't
get
back till yesterday evening. Sorry.
Yeah. You
plus, I don't know who's on that text thread, so I don't like to get involved. Still just a bunch of numbers. All right, well, let's get down to business. How did we leave Reek? Because we have met Reek before. Last we saw of Reek, he was acting as an advisor to Theon Greyjoy, as the latter tried to hold Winterfell. But when Reek brought the men of the Dreadfort to rescue Theon, the malodorous one revealed himself to be Ramsay Snow, bastard son of Lord Bolton. He eliminated the Stark men, punched Theon, and burned Winterfell. Since then, weirdly, Gren had told Jon that rumour had it that Ramsay was flaying Theon alive in the Dreadfort. This rumour might be true because Roose Bolton presented a piece of Theon's skin to Robb Stark before, betraying him to his death. So he may have added fibbing about the skin to his other crimes. It's possible.
Right. Yes.
He might have just taken off a hangnail and said, oh, that's Theon Greyjoy.
That's Theon right here.
Right here. That's all that's left of him. I showed it him. Don't worry if you don't remember this. All right, Mackelly, why don't we give the summary of this one?
All right. Well, Reek tucks into a living, for a few moments longer anyway, rat that he's caught in his cell. The blood is so good that it brings tears to his eyes. His supper has just stopped moving when he hears voices outside. He's terrified. They'll take the rat. They'll tell Ramsay. He hunkers down and tries to eat as much as quickly as possible. The cell door opens and Reek's blinded by the light. The two boys are revolted by the sight and smell of him.
He pleads with them not to hurt him. He even offers them the rat. They ask his name, and with some prompting he comes up with Reek, rhymes with leek. Now he also recalls that these are the Walders Frey, big and little. The Lord wants Reek to make an appearance, more terror. He considers overcoming the children and fleeing, but the last time he tried that, it ended badly. A girl called Kyra helped him escape and asked to be taken to Winterfell. They fled in the dark, but with the morning came the horns of the hunt. They were taken, and the memory of his punishment brings fresh tears to his eyes.
The boys consider washing him, but Ramsay Bolton now, no longer Snow, likes him this way. When the boys drag him up, he's as docile as a dog with its tail between its legs. Outside there's a full moon over the Dreadfort. The smells evoke memories. This is what the world smells like. He's been in the dungeon for maybe half a year. It could be much longer, but the Walders haven't grown much, unless they're the sons of the Walders that he knew, and half his life is gone. Anyway, they bring him to the great hall. The men eating eye him with disgust or amusement as he moves among them.
You know, if this scene was in The Winds of Winter, it is possible that it would be the Walders' children.
This is very likely, actually.
Just a point. Two lords share the highest table with Ramsay, who sits in his father's seat, drinking from his father's cup. One lord is gaunt, with flinty eyes and a long white beard. The other is also thin, but twisted, one shoulder higher than the other. He eats like a vulture. Ramsay is dressed in finery, but he's an ugly man, splotchy and running to fat, with colourless, pitiless eyes. Ramsay tells the lords that this is Reek, who's been his companion since he was a child. They exchange a look. They thought that Reek was dead, but now they recognise him. 3 stone lighter, hair gone white, but it is Stark's smiling ward.
Not so smiley now. Ramsay's knocked some of his teeth out and flayed a few fingers and toes until they festered and had to be cut off. Ramsay questions the blood around Reek's mouth, and he admits to eating a rat. The lords think Ramsay should just kill Reek, but Ramsay has news. He's to marry Arya Stark. He asks Reek if he remembers her. He does. Well, she's to be Lady of Winterfell and Ramsay her lord. Reek is pleased for his master and is invited to attend the wedding.
Ramsay admits that they will have to clean him up and feed him. Ramsay has a little task for Reek if he wants to serve. Oh yes, he does, more than anything. Ramsay says, I ride to war, Reek, and you will be coming with me to help fetch home my virgin bride.
Okay.
All right. So,
well,
it's not the original
alive.
Reek.
Right. It's not the original Reek.
It's actually Reek Mark III, because there was a Reek. Then there was Ramsay pretending to be Reek.
That's true. Yes.
And now there's Theon who has become Reek. Which is why when Ramsay says that Reek's been with him since he was a child, he was kind of telling the truth. It's just Reek hasn't always been the same person.
Well, yeah, there's that. Yeah. It's really sad. You know, he's alive. Theon is alive, but maybe better off if he were not alive. I'm not sure how much of an existence this is. You know what? Where there's life, there's hope, Mackelly. Yes, there is. Yeah, and Theon flew too close to the sun after he was sent back to the Iron Islands by Robb. But then, he betrayed Robb, his best friend. Then he thought too highly of himself. Then he went off script, betrayed Robb and all the Starks again. And then he trusted in the wrong people. So, much of this he brought on with his own hubris, I guess. But
I will say some of that, though, to the point where he betrays Robb, he didn't really have agency at that point. When he went back to the Iron Islands, and Robb should have foreseen this, he was coerced into betraying Robb. He had no choice. Now, his actions when he was in the North, that's all him. He he could have been different when he was in the north than he was, and he chose bad options all the way around. Will you remind me? No, I won't. Why he faked the death of Bran and Rickon? Was it because he couldn't find the real Bran and Rickon and wanted to hide that?
Yes, you're pretty much right. They escaped from Winterfell with Osha and Hodor and the wolves, and then he couldn't find them with his hunting party, and so to not make himself look so bad, he pretended that he killed them.
Right, by killing the miller's children, right?
Yes, exactly, by killing the miller's children, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and Mira and Jojen, of course, were with them as well.
Yes. So, and was Reek involved in that plan? Sorry, was Ramsay involved in that plan?
He was.
Was Ramsay acting as Reek at that time? Yeah.
Yes, and he was the one that suggested the plan with the miller's boys, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. So I will say, I mean, I know you and I both thought this. We were grateful for a short chapter, George.
Yes.
sometimes piles a lot on us for a week, but he did cram quite a lot of horror into the one small chapter, though. I mean, this is it's genuinely disturbing to think about all of the horrors and to think. I mean, I get it. You want to show that he is completely broken down, that he, because he's a POV, his innermost thoughts. And in his innermost thoughts, he knows who he is. He knows that he's Theon Greyjoy. But he's so broken down that he can't, that he is capable of sort of a self-hypnosis into being purely Reek.
Right, yeah.
And you'd have to be horribly broken down to get to that point.
Especially someone like Theon, who
thought very highly of himself. Yes.
Yeah, he's in a pretty awful state when the chapter opens. He's lost 2 fingers from his left hand, a pinky off his right, a toe off his right foot, and 3 toes off his left foot. And it's debatable. I mean, the show implies that he's lost another rather key digit. And not implies.
That's true. The show absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
But the book hasn't said that. I looked that up myself to see if the book had said it, but it hasn't.
No, and there's, in this chapter, when he's trying to remember his name, he thinks to himself, if I say my name wrong, he'll take another finger, or worse, he'll, and then it's like, he would not think of that,
Yeah.
So you would think, we're in his head. Like you said, we know his deep innermost thoughts. If he had lost that, particular digit, he would have, it would have been part of the tally as he was adding things up.
Yes. I would tend to agree, yes. You'd hardly be telling everyone, at all, but if in your head you were inventorying the things you'd lost, your fingers and toes would recede quite quickly into the distance behind that, I feel.
Right, yeah, your one pinky toe you're missing on one foot would, be behind that in order.
He's not alone down there. It's not just the rats that keep him company. There are others in the prison screaming, and that, I mean, we have no idea. They could be absolutely anyone, but doesn't bode well for anyone else who survived the sack of Winterfell, presumably. That's a definite candidate for who those other screams might be.
Yeah, and Lothar Frey heard from the Walders and then passed the information along to Kat that the women and children survivors were taken to safety, in quotes, of the Dreadfort by Ramsay.
Mm-hmm.
So we know Kyra was one, Kyra came from Winterfell, and she was here, she was in his memories here.
Does Reek indicate the gender of the screams?
He says that the women scream the loudest.
So there's definitely a mix, right? Yeah.
Yes, it does imply that men are there as well, and those who knows who they are, they might have brought some men too. It was just reported that the women and children were taken to the Dreadfort, but We know Kyra. She's been a background character for a while now. She was first seen when the boys rode through the winter town outside of Winterfell when they ultimately met the Night's Watch deserters in Osha.
Wow, she's OG.
Yeah, that's right. When they were riding through the town, Theon called out to her and claimed to the boys that he knew her intimately. And then later when he took Winterfell, he also took Kyra as his bed warmer. And then when Reek and the Boltons surprised the Northmen and, the northern force that had surrounded Winterfell, when they surprised them and defeated that force, Theon opened the gates and Reek and the Bolton men came back into Winterfell, and Reek reveals himself as Ramsay, and he wants the prize offered to him, and the prize that he wants is Kyra, and Theon objects, and that's when Ramsay punches him, and that's when he reveals himself. That's when he reveals himself as Ramsay, right. And then they begin the sack of Winterfell. So, she's been around, the story, just kind of a background character for a while, but I don't think she's going to be around any longer, unfortunately.
No, we don't know, because that was a flashback. We don't know if she survived that. Suggestion she probably did not.
No, it doesn't seem like she would. But it's a pretty sadistic game that Ramsay plays with Theon and Kyra, giving them that sort of hope that they might escape.
Yeah. I think in the TV show they amped it up even more that Kyra was in on it, kind of thing. That she was.
Yeah, I remembered this.
I didn't actually look at that scene because I was really sort of just focusing on Theon's reintroduction as Reek. But I think there was a scene where he gets helped to escape, but it's just a trick to torture him some more.
Yeah, I think I remembered that, and it kind of colored my interpretation of this read.
I was the same. I was looking at it and I was like, "Is Kyra in on this?" But I think in the book she was not. Yeah. No. I will say, in all the horrors that are befalling Theon, I'll spare a thought here for the Walders, because they've had a bit of a rough time of it. They were only children. They had each other, and they weren't very nice children.
No,
but they were shipped off to Winterfell, where they weren't loved, but they were bullies, and so they enjoyed themselves. Now they've been taken to the Dreadfort, where they're being treated with respect because the Boltons and the Freys are allied, but they're also witnessing some genuine horrors here, and it can't be good for their development. And I wonder if this is not a great look for... I mean, obviously it's not a great look for the Boltons if this gets out, but if word gets back to the original Walders Frey about what the Boltons are up to, that he might be like, why am I siding with these people? Not that he's got much of a moral compass, but still.
Right. Yeah.
There's something about what Ramsay's up to which is beyond the pale,
Yeah, I mean, everything you said is right. I mean, the Walder boys already had a tendency to kind of lack sympathy and skew toward cruelty. That's probably not improving at the Dreadfort. It doesn't seem like the kind of place where that kind of behavior would be corrected.
Yeah, and I mean, what's their life like? I mean, the only thing we see them do here is go down to the dungeons to bring back the stinky guy who's eating a live rat, And they laugh about it because they're young and cruel, but it's got to be disturbing imagery to go to sleep to,
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes. Absolutely. You'd have to think if Theon can hear screams, that possibly they can hear them as well. And I've always maintained that culture begins at the top, and if that's the case at the Dreadfort, it's a really bad environment for anybody, especially impressionable children. But Theon's unsure if it's been a half a year, 5, 10, 20 years that he's passed in the dungeons. He's wondering if these are even the same Walders that he knew. And, yes, he's being physically tortured, but time deprivation is a torture in its own right.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah. He is
very
basically
well
like a reader of the books.
Right. Has it been 12 years? It could have possibly only been weeks that he's been down there, and he has no concept of how much time has passed. So
Ramsay is no longer a Snow; he's a Bolton. Can you remind me when that happened? Was that something that was decreed from the Iron Throne?
Yes, it was a Jaime POV when we saw Tommen signing a bunch of, or not signing so much, but like stamping his seal on a bunch of papers. He may have been signing, I don't remember. But one of them was legitimizing Ramsay as Ramsay Bolton. And, a king can legitimize a bastard. It's the same offer that Stannis made to Jon. Jon didn't take it. The precedent, as far as I know, began with the great bastards of Aegon IV that became the Blackfires.
Right.
To my knowledge, that's at least that I'm aware, the first example of a king legitimizing bastards.
We skipped over it somewhat, but as he passes through the hall on his way to the high table where Ramsay and the two lords are, he sees a group of young men who are known as the Bastards Boys. And they, do you know much about them? I wrote down their names here, but I don't know an awful lot about them. The ones we know are Ben Bones, who is known as the Keeper of the Bastards Girls, who are Ramsay's hounds, who were used to capture Theon and Kyra when they tried to escape.
Right. We don't really know much about any of these people at this time, but I just like the fact that they all have such interesting and unique names that, George Martin took the time to name these people, like Damon Dance for Me. We don't know Damon yet, but that's a pretty neat nickname. I wonder what it's in reference to. Sour Allen, maybe he's kind of like, Reek Light. Maybe he smells sour. We've got Skinner, which, being that they're in the Dreadfort, Skinner.
Yes. If you're not a Skinner in the Dreadfort, then
yes, that's really that's quite the says a lot about him if he's known as Skinner there.
And I'm going to take a guess that the brains of the operation is the guy called Grunt.
Right. We got at least a little bit, like a one-line description of how he became Grunt. He said something unwise in front of Lord Roose and lost his tongue for it.
Oh, okay. It's not the spokesman of the group, but anyway.
Yes, right. Yeah, but I thought it was neat the fact that we don't know these guys. Maybe we'll get to know them, but I just like their nicknames. I thought it was neat. And I also thought the description of the Dreadfort was just really on par for what you'd expect the Boltons that are known for flaying people. It's kind of a place of nightmare fuel. The torches
are held by skeletal hands for no reason.
Right.
It's like it's like a fun fair ride.
Right. They're totally leaning in on this. We are scary people. Don't mess with us.
But seriously, what is the point? What's the point? This is one of my problems with what was the first of the 3 new Star Wars movies called? The Force Awakens. I enjoyed that movie. It had a lot of good things going for it. I liked it probably as much as any Star Wars movie since The Empire Strikes Back. I probably liked The Force Awakens. But there was one thing that I didn't understand is why would anyone want to be part of the bad guys? They weren't offering anything. They weren't doing anything good. There was no enjoyment of their evil of any sort. They were just evil, and pointlessly so. And that's how I kind of feel about the Boltons here. It's like couldn't the Dreadfort just be like a pleasure palace? You know, but it's not. It's like it's a horror show from beginning to end. Yeah,
right. It's like
I get you might want a reputation. Right, you might want that reputation. So you might have like a visiting parlor, which you keep looking like that with skeletal hands. You know, right. And when people arrive, you show them in there. But if they're buddies, come on back. I got a circus of cushions back here. You know.
Yeah. I dip into my humidor here. Have a cigar of your choice. You know?
Exactly. It's like enjoy the trappings of wealth and power, you know.
Right. But instead, brandy snifters and all that.
Exactly. So the two lords, we never get told the names of the two lords, but I using my Holmesian detective skills, I figured that one of them was going to be a Karstark.
Yes.
And the other one I didn't...
There is a clue there.
There was a clue that there was a Karstark?
Yes, the sunburst. He was...
he did have a sunburst.
You mentioned his sunburst clasp that was holding... I think it was holding his cloak on or whatever.
That I saw as a red herring because I forgot that it was involved in the Karstark. So I thought it was a Martell. I was like, no, that's not right. It's way off. But yes, so one of them is Arnulf Karstark. But the other one I really didn't know, but I looked it up and I found out who it is. So if it's not too much of a spoiler, we'll share that with everyone as well.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. I think it's fine.
Yeah, and that's Hother Umber was the other one.
Right. And
now, the Karstarks make sense to me, because the Karstarks are sundered from the Starks, so sure, why you know, they're going to side with the Boltons. I get it. But the Umbers? This is a worry.
Yeah, it is a worry. And, well, in fact, first off, neither are actually lords.
Yes, I thought
Theon
that too.
thinks they're lords. Hother Umber is joint castellan of Last Hearth with his brother Mor's Crowfood, and Arnulf Karstark is castellan of Carhold. His brother Rickard, he is the brother of Rickard Karstark and the uncle of Harion, who is the new lord of Karstark after Rickard was killed.
Right.
But the thing about Arnulf is that he is the sole northern lord, or castellan as it were, that we have heard of that has pledged his fealty to Stannis. That's the one that Stannis keeps hanging his hat on. So, you know, it's not great for Stannis that he's here at the Dreadfort dining alongside Ramsay Bolton.
Yeah, that's true actually. So this is worse bad news than I thought for the forces of not Bolton, because
right.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes. Yeah, John thought kind of the opposite of what you were thinking. You were thinking, well, they're sundered from the Stark, so it makes sense they'd align with the Boltons. John thought he has no choice but to back Stannis because the Karstarks kind of went on that Lannister rampage after Jaime was freed.
That's true.
And so they've sundered themselves in both directions.
Yes, of course. I hadn't thought about that their betrayal of the Starks, which, you know, all right, they're falling out with the Starks, presaged and coincided with them really offending the Lannisters.
Right.
They could rebuild a bridge with the Starks, but they're never rebuilding a bridge with the Lannisters.
Right. They went on a absolute lion hunt, basically, through the Riverlands, trying to find Jaime.
So Hother Umber driven into the arms of the Boltons by Stannis's kind overtures?
Yeah, well, I mean, so it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Because their lord, the Great John, is a staunch supporter of Robb, but he's captive at the Twins. So to protect his life, it seems like they probably had no choice but to back the Freys, Lannister, Bolton side. And the Boltons are now the new Wardens of the North, so... Yeah. You know.
I suppose you play the long game here. You try and get him back and then maybe turn the tables on the Boltons, but yeah. And it's... Hother Umber is the one who looks like the vulture over his food. He's the one who's crippled. We got the shoulders out of alignment.
I was thinking that was
the other way around.
Arnulf.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'd have to go back and read the descriptions.
That's fine. No, that's good info, because that makes sense. I was kind of like, I just let it wash over me once I found out who they were, but I didn't really think it through. But they're both in an interesting position. The Karstarks, by dint of having no other friends, and the Umbers by dint of not having their lord, but their lord being captive essentially by the people they're courting's best buddies here.
Right. Yeah. The Karstarks are kind of, so they're backing both sides, it seems.
Right, and that makes a certain amount of sense too, for the Karstarks to pledge your loyalty all around very quickly. But
right, got to get a new friend because you alienated yourself. But Ramsay says something kind of thought-provoking here. He tries to pass Reek off as having always been with him, and as you said, maybe Reek, the concept of Reek, has gone through a few iterations here, but he has been, maybe that's it, that he's just like, well, this person called Reek is always with me. And that's when Arnulf recognizes and calls false and says, no, that's Theon, which is pretty remarkable considering the state that Theon's in, that he recognized him. But it made me wonder, why is Ramsay pretending that this Reek is the Reek of old? Could he possibly miss the real Reek? Is he trying to recreate the man? He's generally fond of, the Reek that he lost.
Okay, interesting thought. However, I'm going to throw it back at you by saying he brought Theon up from the dungeons to parade him off in front of Umber and Karstark. He knew they would recognize him. Ramsay knew.
You think? Yeah.
Because he then talked to him openly about his knowledge of Arya.
Yes, once they outed Ramsay, he didn't back down from it. He didn't say, oh, no, you got the wrong man. This is Reek. He's been with me since
I think
childhood.
He was always planning to say, look who I've got. Look at this. And what he was saying was either maybe just a reinforcement to Reek, to remember that he's Reek and you've always been Reek and you've always been mine.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, that's a possibility. You very well could be right about the reason that he brought him up in front of those lords. I just wondered, he didn't have to call him Reek. He could have called him anything and just treated him poorly. But he's trying to craft this character, Reek, in the model and image and smell of his former Reek.
I also think there's a bit of long game being played here, because he's going to have moments with Reek where he doesn't want people to look too closely at Reek, and so reinforcing constantly maybe gets people to not look at him as much. If you
that could be.
occasionally refer to him as Theon, that's, first of all, it's going to remind Theon who he is, and secondly, it's going to sort of like make the whole thing seem more like a charade. If you stick to it always, then maybe you can get, I don't know, maybe you can trick people who've never met Theon into believing that it is the original Reek,
Yeah. I just, I was thinking that maybe even the awful smell conjures a fond feelings.
God, he is a monster, isn't he?
Yeah, right. It's something that's familiar to him. And it was his fault that he died, because he's the one that forced Reek to switch clothes with him. And Reek became Ramsay, and Roderick's men killed what they thought was Ramsay. And so maybe he's feeling kind of like, he mentions my father gave him to me as a token of his love. And, maybe Reek is more important to him than we realize at this point. And, he's feeling some guilt and trying to make amends and replace what he had lost. I don't know. I got a little deep thinking about why he's creating this new version.
You might want to climb out of that hole.
It's just very scary down there in that hole.
Exactly. I will say, actually, just the description of Ramsay is interesting because the Ramsay in the TV show was a good-looking young actor.
Right.
And the Ramsay in this is kind of like, splotchy and running to fat and, not attractive at all. So
I noticed that
interesting bit of casting.
I noticed that too.
So Ramsay's to marry Arya. Now, we'd heard of this plan somewhere else, hadn't we? I feel like this has come up, that this was being touted previously.
Yes. We've heard it a few times, a couple at least. Jaime, I believe, when Jaime first got back to King's Landing, I believe he ran into them leaving King's Landing. And I think we were told at the time. I believe Cersei has told us that this is happening.
Yeah.
But we know, because we were told at the time, that Ramsay is marrying the fake Arya. And she's actually Jane Poole, daughter of Theon Poole.
And we know for a fact she's Jane Poole, or is that just our logical assumption?
I'm pretty sure it's been mentioned that she's Jane Poole.
And Jane Poole was Sansa's handmaid and daughter of some loyal subject. Yes, that's right.
The steward of Winterfell.
Steward of Winterfell. And since in the time we lost Jane, she was under Peter Baelish's careful administrations, and so
you have to imagine that Theon will know her when he sees her and know that this girl is not Arya,
and that's what I was getting to. Pretty much everybody from Winterfell is either dead or imprisoned. Very, very, very few people remember what Arya Stark looks like, but one of them is Theon Greyjoy. Theon Greyjoy absolutely. Not only does he know what Arya Stark looks like, he knows what Jane Poole looks like. And when he sees that young lady, he's going to be like, that's Jane Poole, and I know it.
Yes, Will. I have to imagine in his current state, he will not say anything. Just keep his mouth shut.
Possibly, but why? Well, maybe that's it. Maybe the question answers itself. Why bring Theon to this party? And Ramsay's talking about cleaning him up, so he is Theon for this party, because Theon is one person who can say categorically that is Arya Stark. Even though it's categorically a lie, he is one person that could be believed on this.
He can add the legitimizing factor that I grew up in Winterfell. I can tell you that is Arya Stark right there that I'm looking at, who happens to look a lot like Jane Poole, but I know it's Arya Stark.
Right.
Yeah.
But of course, the danger for Ramsay is quite strong, because we know that Theon is still Theon inside of there. He is Reek. He is broken, but he is still Theon, and he's going to know the truth. And now you've given someone who does not love you, who is broken and terrified of you, but someone who does not love you, the one piece of information that could bring you down.
That is all true. Yeah. Maybe Ramsay doesn't have the ability to think about the fact that Theon or Reek would betray him at this point, that he's so thoroughly converted him into being Reek. But Ramsay wants Reek to ride to war with him to bring home his virgin bride. I mean, I think we can make some conjectures on what he means by that. We know, I just mentioned that Jane and / Arya are traveling from King's Landing. So they possibly met Roose at the Twins, which means the whole party is stuck below the neck because the Ironborn still hold Moat Cailin.
Right.
So you would think the war that he's referring to is freeing Moat Cailin from the Ironborn so that the Bolton party can get past it back home.
That makes sense. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that does make sense, yeah.
And so what's his plan? Is he going to have Theon help attack the Ironborn from the north? Would he do it? Would he fight against the Ironborn?
Facet of Theon. That's the other facet of Theon's involvement here. That he could somehow bring them down.
Possibly.
That he could be a spy. He could be to Moat Cailin as Edmure was to Riverrun.
Oh, yeah.
But the part of that is a virgin bride. Now, I believe Arya is still a young girl, and one would hope that she would be a virgin bride. But I'm very worried that Jane Poole may not be a virgin bride because of whatever tortures she's been suffering at the hands of Peter Baelish. I don't think it particularly matters. I think the virgin bride thing refers to the myth of Arya Stark.
Yes, I think you're right with that. We don't know what she's been up to, but we do know that Peter Baelish owns brothels.
Yes.
And she's been hidden away under his care, so that's very possible.
All right, good stuff. Can we do some spoilers? Of course we can do some spoilers, but you only get to hear them if you join us at the upper tiers of the Buy Me a Coffee Sustainer levels. And you want to, because there's good stuff here. All right, well, thank you for the spoilers, Mackelly. Those were good. How about a bit of background? Tell us about the Dreadfort, maybe.
All right. Well, yes, the Bolton seat.
The funfair ride that is the Dreadfort.
Right. So the Bolton seat is the Dreadfort. It's a strong, rather menacing-looking castle, as we've discussed, both on the outside and in. Its huge towers are topped with triangular-shaped merlins that kind of give the towers the appearance of having teeth. And then, as we saw on the inside, Theon mentions the torch sconces of human skeletal hands. So yeah, it's a real charmer. I'm sure it has fantastic Airbnb ratings. The castle is located east and slightly north of Winterfell along the banks of the Weeping Water River, and not very far south of the river's headwaters. Now, here's some history. Thousands of years ago, the Bolton Red Kings, as they were called, ruled the lands basically between the last river, that's the name of a river, to the east of them, and the White Knife to the west. So pretty much the eastern part of the north, or at least a large chunk of it anyway. The Boltons were considered the bitterest enemies of the Starks, and the houses were often at war for thousands of years. The last Red King, Rogar the Huntsman, bent the knee to the Starks right around the time of the Andal invasion, although, as you might imagine, the occasional Bolton lord would rise up in rebellion. But the last time that happened, the last Bolton to bend the knee to a Stark, was about 1,000 years ago. So
I'm hoping a repeat is coming soon.
Yes, me too.
Mm-hmm. All right, comparison with the television show. Obviously, it's funny in the my memory of the book was that there was more of a mystery over who Reek was for longer, but it was revealed in his first chapter, basically. In the TV show, they couldn't hide it at all. We always knew it was Theon because we could see him. It was the same actor.
Right. Physically see, yeah.
But I tell you what, the TV show really did love turning Theon into Reek. They spent a lot of time on the gratuitous torture and misery that went into it. As we alluded, one facet of the torture was a penectomy, as it is known. And it was unequivocal in the TV show. It was actually mailed to his father, Balon.
Oh, Balon, right. Yes, I remember this vaguely.
Who opened it with Asher. So as we talked earlier, it's sort of hinted at, but possibly denied so far in the book, at least. So we'll I'm hesitant to say we'll keep an eye on that, but we'll pay attention to whether that stays part of Theon. Pedantry. I mean, apart from wishing that some of this wasn't happening, I didn't see any pedantry here.
Yeah, me either. Yeah.
All right, news and notes.
So we told you a while ago about filming wrapping up for the movie The Lost Lands, based off of a short story George Martin wrote in 1982 about a character named Grey Alice. Well, not only was its premiere in theaters in 2025, but it is now available on streaming. As we mentioned at the time, and I'll just tell you again, the movie stars Mila Jovovich as Grey Alice, as well as Dave Bautista. And I'll probably give it a try, but I will mention that it hasn't gotten the most rave reviews. It's currently got a 24 of rating from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes and a 47 by the the audience. So
yeah,
not.
Dave Bautista has been in some terrific films, but he's also been in some turkeys. So
yes, yeah.
I kind of feel the same about Mila Jovovich too, actually.
Yeah, I think you're right about both of them. And I like both. You're right. Some of the movies they've been in, I think Dave Bautista is very funny in Guardians of the Galaxy.
And, I thought he was terrific in the Blade Runner film.
Oh yeah, right there too.
Really good in that.
So I don't know. I can't speak. I haven't seen it yet. I can just tell you that Rotten Tomatoes is not loving it thus far.
Yeah. And we have a sustainer call very promptly after this episode drops on Tuesday, April 22nd. We always have fun. I have a soccer match immediately afterwards, so perhaps you'll get to see me doing some calisthenics on the call. If you want to join, if you want to be on the call with us, just join the Buy Me a Coffee Sustainer tier that includes that perk, and we'll make it happen. You'll get an invite.
That's right. We'd love to have you.
All right, let's conclude this one. So we have a new Reek. Smells like the old Reek.
Yeah.
And
it's what's happened to Theon is just it's hard. The description of it is pretty terrible. You just, for someone who, as they mentioned, was always so smiley, and now he's lost. We didn't even mention the teeth that he's lost.
That's right.
He's lost teeth along with the fingers and toes, and just completely broken down.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Whatever his arc is from here, let's say, he turns the tables on Ramsay and kills Ramsay and saves the Starks, and his life is not ruined, but it's definitely prescribed by what's happened here. He's going to be...
Oh, yeah.
He'll never play the violin, that's for sure.
That is for sure. Yeah, he won't ever be the same person that he was,
Yeah. I have to believe that there's a potential restitution arc here, that there's enough self-awareness in Theon for him to turn the tables on Ramsay, and so we'll hold out hope that comes.
Yeah. I mean, Jaime lost a hand, and that completely changed who he was. Theon's lost a lot, and he was also been just broken down in every possible way. We'll see how that affects him.
Yeah. I mean, his Reek's delight at being invited to the wedding suggests that, he's going to be loyal to Ramsay for a good while longer. But I don't know. I don't know how Ramsay feels. I don't know if Ramsay is aware of how he's playing with fire. To have this... I mean, the original Reek worked out for him. I mean, basically, he treated him as a filthy slave, and then let him die in his place. That's pretty good loyalty right there.
Yeah.
But it's so dangerous because you can't. It's like always beating a dog. If you always beat the dog, you'll whip it into submission, but that dog will always be ready to kill you.
Right. Very true. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, although it seems like maybe Theon's life is going to improve a little bit, at least, unless Ramsay is just torturing him more by letting him think that that's happening. It seemed he said, we got to bathe you, get you some fresh clothes, feed you some food. So if it's not a cruel jape, maybe it's going to improve at least temporarily a little bit.
Yeah.
But along with that, will his memory and personality return at the better conditions? Maybe to the point of being strong enough to escape or kill Ramsay.
Yeah. And we're set to re-meet Jane Poole. I'm hoping she's okay. And if Ramsay rides to war to win her, is he going to fight for Moat Cailin in order to reopen the north-south route from the north?
Right.
And will Theon be part of that plan? I guess we will find out.
That's our conjecture. I just have to say, with Jane marrying Ramsay, that might be a fate worse than death. I can't even imagine how horrible that would be.
Yes, I immediately went to the ranking. Got to rank Joffrey or Ramsay.
Right. That is true. Joffrey or Ramsay?
Actually, I think Joffrey might be worse. I think Ramsay has got the potential to be charming. You know, when he was pretending to be Reek, he was clever and subtle.
Yeah, but it was all a trick. Joffrey was charming when he was with Sansa. When he was wooing Sansa, he was charming.
That's true. Yeah.
I just think the first time that I don't even know if Jane will have to anger Ramsay. He just might be sadistic enough to mistreat her and torture her and torment her just for fun.
Okay, Theon, shake this off and kill him. Do it for me.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
All right.
I'm with you.
Next week, we're going to hop over the wall to catch up with Bran, see how he's doing. I'm hoping that it's nice and warm. I hope that wall is weeping north of the wall like it was last time we were there.
As if last Bran wasn't enough of a downer in a dark chapter. We're coming off of this chapter, so we'll have to see if that one's even worse or if maybe a little brighter anyway. Yeah.
There's 3 ways you can help us. You could leave us a 5-star rating and a positive review. You could buy us a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostharrenhall. There you can join us at any of the various sustainer levels. There's a tier to match your budget and interest. The upper tiers get you the spoiler section, and they get you an invite to the sustainer calls. Or you can just make a donation directly to our cause at our website, ghostsofharrenhall.buzzsprout.com.
And if you're looking for more ways to interact with us, well, one thing you could send us a text. The link is at the top of every episode show notes. We just got a message yesterday, which I very much enjoyed. I don't think I've showed Simon yet. I will show him after this call. But thank you for that. And if you're interested in keeping up on the latest Ghosts of Harrenhal news and developments, well, you can always check us out on our social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Ghost Harrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.